Getting you visuals of Prime Minister Modi. He is in Qatar. He has met Qatar's Emir and he is receiving a guard of honor. Prime Minister Modi right now in Qatar after his successful trip to Abu Dhabi. These are the latest visuals on your screen of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. His visit to Qatar comes days after 8 former Indian Navy veterans who had been sentenced to death in Qatar on espionage charges were released. He has now received a ceremonial welcome in Qatar. On his arrival, he had held talks with his counterpart, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani, to explore new avenues for strengthening relationships between the two countries. You can see the visuals on your screen of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi had posted on social media that he had a wonderful meeting with the Prime Minister of Qatar and had discussions revolving around ways to boost India-Qatar friendship. Visuals on your screen of Prime Minister Modi's second visit to Qatar since 2014, where he held key talks. India and Qatar are discussing regional talks and aimed at strengthening overall bilateral ties between the two countries. As part of the second leg of his two-nation visit, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Qatar yesterday. Today he's been given a warm welcome, and this is his second visit to the country since 2014, coming after he inaugurated West Asia's first stone-carved Hindu temple in Abu Dhabi yesterday. The visit to Qatar is aimed at bettering and strengthening the overall ties between New Delhi and Doha. India's Prime Minister also held talks with his Qatari counterpart, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani. Both leaders discussed bilateral cooperation in sectors including investment, energy and finance. Visuals on your screen of Prime Minister Modi receiving a guard of honor. This is Prime Minister Modi's second visit to Qatar since 2014. He has met the Emir of Qatar, discussing key avenues for strengthening the relationship between New Delhi and Doha. This visit assumes significance. The Ministry of External Affairs of India said earlier that 8 veterans had been freed at the command of Qatar's Emir, representing a notable diplomatic achievement for India. Joining me on the broadcast is my principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibil, to give us more information. Siddhant, what more are you picking up on ground? Prime Minister Modi's visit in Qatar.
Well, the Prime Minister is meeting the President, the Qatari leadership, and the Emir of Qatar has been having conversations in the past as well with the Indian Prime Minister. Remember, on 1st of December, on the sidelines of the Dubai summit, we saw both the Indian Prime Minister and the Qatari Emir having a brief conversation. But essentially, Qatar has been in news given the fact that recently 8 ex-Indian naval officers were freed by the Qatari government. It could involve not only the legal channels but also the political channels as well. As the Indian Foreign Secretary said, that it was the Prime Minister's personal intervention that led to their release is something that is now known. Now the fact that he is in Qatar, the focus will not be just that also, but also on issues like energy. Remember, India and Qatar recently signed LNG pact, a long-term LNG pact. Also, when it comes to the diaspora, there's a huge Indian diaspora living in Qatar, for which the Indian Prime Minister in the past has thanked the Qatari leadership for taking care of them during the COVID crisis. Also on the focus has been issues like science and technology, also on connectivity and other areas as well. But all in all, an important visit of the Indian Prime Minister, where, of course, he meets the leadership of Qatar. Remember, the Indian Prime Minister is on a two-day visit to UAE and Qatar. Yesterday, we saw he was in UAE, where the focus was on the Ehlan Modi Diaspora event, the inauguration of the BAPS Hindu Mandir, and his address at the global summit, the global summit where he focused on his governance model. But essentially, today the focus remains on Qatar.
Siddhant Sibbal, thank you for joining us on the broadcast. We continue to track Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Qatar. Visuals on your screen of Prime Minister Modi receiving a guard of honor in Qatar. He has met the Emir of Qatar, discussing key issues, including strengthening of bilateral relationship between New Delhi and Doha. This is Indian Prime Minister's second visit to Qatar since 2014. Indian Prime Minister will conclude his two-nation visit later this evening, after which he will return back to New Delhi. Latest visuals on your screen of Prime Minister Modi in Qatar. We track for you the latest developments on ground and Prime Minister Modi's visit to Qatar. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.